is live and in color. Woo!
When I think about my money and how much I've spent, how quickly I spent it, and where it all went, sometimes I regret it, sometimes I don't care. If my wife knew the value of my collection, I'd need to be in your prayers. Some men like to gamble, some men like to race, some men like to party, to drink and fall on their face. But I've been collecting knives since the time before MySpace. Some are fixed blades and I have many that fold. Some go down in value, but some appreciate like gold. There's a feeling inside, a hole in my soul. If there isn't a new knife on its way to my home, order a full custom, get on a wait list. Could be a year or 3, but it's worth buying to me because of the skill of the artist. There's some factory knives that you didn't know existed, are rare and special, being made so limited. You think that I'm nuts and call me a hoarder or whatever, man. At least I've got something special on pre-order.
Welcome back, boys and girls. My name is Jim, and I'm glad to be here with you again today. We're going to be taking a look at the brand new Mechforce Shard. Now, this was designed by knife maker Paul Tony Kilby and based off of his custom shard. Daniel from Mechforce decided to turn it into an integral just to make it even more special. Now, typically, when we see a tanto these days, it's an Americanized tanto. I'll give you an example, and this is a knife that'll be coming up for review very, very shortly here on my channel, so make sure you subscribe. This is a full custom here. This is an Americanized tanto. You have a very abrupt angle for that front grind. Where this, first off, you have more of a gently sweeping belly for the primary bevel. And then that goes much more gently, not as aggressively right-angled into the front tip grind. And that is also curved instead of being flat and straight. So a little bit of a difference there. Here you could see that Kilby wanted to pay homage to the actual inspiration, a Japanese katana. So this is a standout in the world of popularized tantos. Now let's take a look at a few of the variations that will be available. This, quite obviously, is the all black, and this has the copper layered carbon fiber. Very slick, very cool. This is always a very, very popular option. The copper foil carbon fiber is so sexy, so gorgeous. By the way, it also feels really nice too. It's nice and slick and smooth. They did a great job finishing it. And the other two, in no particular order, because I don't know which ones are which. By the way, the full packaging, you'll receive the outer box, the inner case, and a sticker. So we'll get this open. Oh, man alive. That thing is nuts. That is insane. Wow. Hold on just a second. How crazy are those inlays, man? By the way, the action on these is really, really nice. Okay, let me get that just put off to the side, not back in the box, put off to the side just for a moment. Now, I don't think this one's going to be quite as spectacular as the Dichrolam, but let's see. I think it's still going to look good. This is the Fat Carbon Frost with the Stonewash blade. Now let's get these all laid out so that you can see them in all their glory. Wow, that dichrolam, I got to tell you, is absolutely stupendous. Now, if you've never seen any dichrolam in person before, this is a relatively expensive material. And the gentleman that makes it, I've had a chance to deal with him in the past. I've actually worked with this material myself, not this particular pattern and colorway, but his dichrolam material is simply stunning. And it's got to be fully polished to look this good. There's a lot of work that goes into making it look this good and this rich with this level of depth. This material is being sold to a lot of guitar makers at this point that are making custom guitars with this material. And I can't imagine what a custom guitar body with all dichrolam has to cost, but that's got to be expensive. Let's talk for a second about Paul Tony Kilby. He started making fixed blades around 2016. He was mentored by Jim Coffey. And if you don't know who Jim Coffey is, a quick Google search will pop up a whole bunch of really beautiful, full handmade custom knives that he makes. He is a member of the ABS, and he's known more for his traditional style fixed blades. I mean, if you want to go back to having, stag on your fixed blades, that's going to be a great example of what he does. Drop point hunters, things like that. That's where he comes from. And he taught Paul how to make fixed blades and taught him all the fundamentals of knife making. So then around 2020, while the rest of us were locked away from the rest of the world, Paul decided to focus on making folders. And then very shortly thereafter in 2022, his mentor came to him and said, hey, I want to start making some folders as well. And at that point, Paul had the wonderful opportunity to work side by side with Paul and giving him some guidance and pointers as he was making his first folder. So that's kind of neat. So, everything came full circle. Paul learns from Jim. Jim then decides, hey, I'm going to modernize a little bit and start making some folders. And then the student becomes the teacher. That's kind of neat. Now, when Mike over at Mechforce Knives got his hands on a custom Kilby, he fell totally in love with the Shard, and he asked Kilby if he would be interested in collaborating with them at Mechforce on a production version. And then, like I said, once they got into things, Daniel, the owner of Mechforce, decided he wanted to kind of flex his machining muscles and create the company's first integral. And they felt that the Shard was the best design to do that with. And I got to tell you, I kind of agree. Now, I think the Shard is a nice, clean design. It's got a nice, comfortable fit in the hand, great ergonomics, really good size. I'll go over the specs here in a moment so you know what all the sizes are. And the fact that you can light switch it or you can push button flip it is going to give people a nice bit of flexibility as well. And I think turning it into an integral makes it a bit more exciting, because while I look at this and I look at the kind of traditional, it's not quite a Quaken style because it doesn't have that fully bowed look that a Quaken would have, but that traditional Japanese tanto design with a very neutral shaped frame. Some people might look at it and go, oh, that's kind of a boring design overall. So to spice things up, number one, Daniel turned it into an integral, which again, I've discussed this for many, many years, makes manufacturing of these knives tremendously more adventurous, more challenging. And then they decided on some colorway options here that are all absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, you can kind of see where I'm gravitating. This is so pimp. I am so digging this. Yeah, I know it's way over the top and maybe even a bit obnoxious. I don't care, man. Look at that deep blue ocean. Look how gorgeous that is. I truly can't stop staring at it. And look how it just moves in the light. It's like a kaleidoscope. It's so wild. It's so cool. And the fact that they did a frame lock and did an inlay on the lock side, you don't often see it. Brilliant. Truly brilliant. Hidden back here is going to be your lanyard post. Your pocket clip is also going to be a nicely milled 3D sculpted titanium pocket clip. M390 steel blade. Nice, clean, bright stone wash throughout. Very deep laser etching in that. Let's get a closer look at the copper foil carbon fiber. I don't want you to think that it's all about the dichrolam, but it kind of is. Shh. They did a beautiful job finishing that. You've got a black wash finish to the blade. Looks great. And then right over here to the fat carbon. And you can never go wrong with fat carbon. They have really the coolest carbon fiber designs that there are. Now, I have to stop myself, and I've discussed this in previous videos as well. I can't call it carbon fiber because it's not a weave of fibers in carbon. I guess the proper way to really talk about it is that it's forged carbon. It's still carbon, but it's just not fibers. And then they integrate the colored sections within there, and it's just such standout material. It really is awesome. And here also, you're going to get that bright stone-washed finish as well. Now, let's pull back just a hair. Lay these off to the side. And get into the specs. Starting with the overall length, we're looking at 7.875 inches. Blade length of 3.375 inches in Bowler M390 stainless steel. Cutting edge of 3¼ inches. Blade thickness is 157 thousandths of an inch thick. In a traditional styled Japanese tanto, compound grind, hollow ground primaries with flat ground tip grinds. And a handle thickness of just a tick over 1/2 inch. It is 509 thou thick from the pocket clip to the front surface inlay. They are running on IKBS bearings, which that kind of blows my mind. If you really think about how an integral knife has to be put together. You can't separate it. You can't take it apart. You don't have front side, back side, and then a blade in the middle with a backspacer. So you can't just lay the bearings into the recesses of the blade and the bearing pocket. And then sandwich it all together. You're having to put the blade into a solid piece of titanium and hold the lock out of the way. And then, for those that aren't familiar with IKBS, it's not a caged bearing like we're used to seeing. IKBS is the original style of bearings that have been used for knives. And they're individual, teeny tiny little balls. Teeny, teeny tiny, very easy to drop and lose. So I would tell you this is probably not going to be a user serviceable knife, because you go to take this apart for deep cleaning and you're probably not going to get it back together again with all of the bearings installed. Just saying. Your weight is 4.02 ounces. And yes, so when it comes down to it, I don't know how I would feel about the full custom. I think it may have been a knife that I would have maybe even bypassed. Because unless he is doing a lot of really spectacular finishes or spectacular material choices, the overall design itself is kind of basic looking. Now, that's not to be insulting in any way. It is very, very difficult to design a knife and keep it clean and clutter-free and not put a lot of extraneous bullshit into your design. And we've all seen it, whether it be excessive amounts of inlays or patterning of inlays in ways that just really didn't make sense, or just adding embellishments overall to the design of the knife that just aren't necessary, and some areas that argue with the design of other areas of the knife, and it just doesn't make sense. I have a great appreciation, and I've said this for many years on my channel, for makers that are able to rein themselves in and restrain themselves and design a clean, simple looking knife. Even if the knife actually is not a simple knife to build, it has a clean, simple look. You don't have different areas of this knife fighting for your attention. Everything flows together well, a nice homogeneous design. I like the fact that it is a bit more of a traditional tanto shape. I like that a hell of a lot. But I don't think that it jumped off the page at me. I think if I were scrolling through a retailer that had a whole bunch of knives for sale and I came across the custom of this, it might not grab my attention. Meanwhile, the collaborative effort here between Paul Tony Gilby, Mike Radford, and Daniel, everybody together, turning this into an integral, to me makes a huge difference. I'm a big integral fan. And then offering 3 completely wildly different colorways that are magnificent in their own ways. You want that all dark look? That's a fantastic way to go. You want something a little brighter? Then you've got these. I think that the fat carbon is a little bit more of an EDC look, whereas the dichrolam is probably more of a dressy look, going to church look. It is a little churched up. Man, that thing is, that is balls out crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to put that one down because I'm kind of getting addicted to that one. Okay. Now, no knife is perfect, which is kind of hard to say about Mechforce because they have been knocking them out of the park. So if you've ever been on the fence, you've looked at a Mechforce knife and went, I don't know, the name kind of sounds like, you know, they should be making flashlights and keychains and t-shirts with Punisher skulls on them. I don't know if that's really, no. Just put that to the side, man. Put it to the side. And remember where Mechforce comes from. They come from making gun accessories, particularly AR-15 accessories. They understand what guys like us with our obsessive personalities and our collecting personalities enjoy in our EDC items, in our tools and weapons and collectibles. They understand that. and they're doing something for everyone. Again, that blacked out tactical look, boom, got you covered. That EDC can get knocked around, banged up a little bit, get a little bit scarred, and it won't look too terrible. Got you covered right here. And then taking grandma out to lunch after church. Got you covered right here. All with a slick, smooth action, perfectly tuned detent in a titanium integral. What more could you ask for? Oh, to not be $600? Boom, got you covered. Hell yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that because I could literally go on forever and ever. I think it's a great design. If you're looking for a smaller knife that has a very slim profile, then please do consider this one. I think that it'll make a lot of people very happy. Most knives of this ilk are going to be a little bit broader, a little bit taller, and may not fit as discreetly into the pocket as this would. So there is your look at the Shard by Mechforce Knives. Congratulations to Mechforce for making yet another awesome design. And to Paul Tony Kilby, I know that we don't know each other. I am so happy for you that you teamed up with such great folks over there and got to make such a splash with your Shard design, because now I honestly believe you're going to have people that are collecting in these and they're going to come in and probably get a custom from you. Because, guys, once you've got this in your hands and you've played with it, you're going to be in love. Are there any negatives? Okay, I guess I won't end it here. Yeah, a couple of minor little niggles. I think on the blacked out version, I would have rather have seen blacked out hardware or Cerakote it or something to where it had more of a copper look. And actually, really, you could do a bronze ano. It doesn't go quite the color of copper, but close enough, and I think that would have worked. And the only other thing is I really wish that the flipper tab was not as prominent, but I do understand that that is something that Kilby does on all of his knives. He likes a very large flipper tab. Hey, man, I'm stuck in the 80s, so it's cool if he wants to be stuck in the early 2000s. That was a thing in the early 2000s, if nobody else got that joke. A lot of makers were doing really big, crazy, oversized flipper tabs. And I just kind of wish it wasn't so pointy up here, right where you're grabbing it. But you're not really having to put a lot of pressure on it. You don't have to push button it if you don't want. You can just simply light switch it, and it's not bothersome at all. But that's it. A couple little niggles, and that's it. It's pretty darn good coming from me. Anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you guys, as always, for joining me. And so, yeah, again, sneak peek coming very soon. A custom Bober Blades 5th element. I'll be doing this one right here very, very shortly. And for those of you that love flashbangs, but hate the fact that they're not reusable, I'm going to be reviewing an infinitely reusable flashbang. Yep. No lie, man. This thing is stupid and crazy and awesome. But this will be on my alternate channel, A to Z EDC. And the link to that channel is in the description below and is in all of my recent videos. So please do go over there, subscribe, because you're going to want to be notified when that video comes out, because I plan on having fun with this one. Oof, crazy. Thanks, guys. I'll catch y'all on those upcoming videos.